internet world.
Hello.
We are starting a cult as usual. We're
It's
here.
true. It's true. That's Grant. I'm Jake.
That is us. I'm Grant, and that is Jake.
Also in the room, Navi, crying.
Yes, you may hear occasional whining. We're doing our best.
You
he's
shush
talking.
now. You're going to get into trouble. You're going to get into trouble if you're not in this room with us. All right?
Yeah, no. See, that's the problem. I don't want you out there thinking that we're torturing the dog. His bed isn't here. His toys are in here. It's just that if we were to come in here and close the door, he would probably be getting into things that he shouldn't be doing. He'd be tearing up the couch and doing all this stuff.
That's true. Even right now, he's licking your ear pretty intently.
Yeah, he is. He's getting into the microphone. But this is okay. This is what he's here for. We love him nonetheless.
Anyway, that's Navi, and we are all here.
Yes, we are here. We are going to be telling you the wonderful beginnings. I guess wonderful might not be the right word to use.
It's definitely the start of it.
But the beginnings, nonetheless, of one man named Edward. Well, actually,
it is Edward, yeah.
It is, but
it's
no one
Edward,
calls him that.
Edward Theodore Gein.
Ed Gein. Ed Ted. It's like Ben 10.
He's a combination of everything.
Yeah, so I'm sure most people, if you're listening to this episode, unless this is your first soiree with the internet, your chances are you've stumbled upon us and you already know a little bit about this guy. For those of you that are fans of horror films, it was the inspiration for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you don't know anything about him, don't get your hopes up. There's really no chainsaws involved. It's just the inspiration.
It's true. It's true, yeah.
But we are starting a cult. That's what we're doing. And in order for us to fully start this cult, for those of you unaware, we have to teach you everything. We have to teach ourselves everything before we can start the cult. Right?
No, it's true. It's very stressful.
Right, so we're in a constant state of preparation. We have a cult. You are in the cult already.
No, it's true. You're listening. You're in it.
But we are not fully organized until we all know everything there is to know. And with that being said, we're gonna be here today to teach you another great, grand, and wonderful lesson in the world of true crime.
There's some do's. There's some don'ts.
Oh yeah.
And somewhere in the end, there's a lot of gross stuff.
Yeah, and I hope you guys are ready because this is. I feel like we say this a lot, but we tend to be very picky and choosy on what we cover in true crime. Because, there's an abundance of it out there in the world.
A lot of people are committing crimes. Yeah, they like it.
And we kind of pick things that, stray from the norm, as well as picking, it's hard to ignore the classics, It
is, because you know what? They're classics for a reason.
You can't teach a course on rock and roll and skip over the Beatles. You just can't do it, know?
That's true, yeah.
So this is one of the Beatles, I would say, of serial killing, just because the sheer amount of, I guess, influence that he's given to pop culture since his time.
Yeah, we wouldn't have that crazy chainsaw movie. Come on.
No, we would not. We would not.
And
so
we need that.
Let's rewind the clock a little bit, okay? We're going to go back in time to when he was arriving on this plane of existence.
Yeah. But let's just give a little synopsis on who he was.
Absolutely not.
Just a tad bit. Grant.
No.
A little bit.
No.
All right.
No, go ahead.
Ed Gein, otherwise known as the Mad Butcher. The Butcher of Plainfield. The Plainfield Ghoul. Or Eddie. He was an American convicted murderer. Not a serial killer. A lot of people think that. But no, he was just a convicted murderer. He became truly infamous for what he did with the bodies of those he did not kill.
Yeah, and that is an important detail because in order to be a serial killer, don't quote me on this, but I believe the magic number is 4.
4 and over, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be more than 4, and there's certain outliers that go into it too. It's like we take into account time span, things like that, how quickly, because, there's a difference between a guy that, like the Columbine kids, you wouldn't technically call them serial killers. They're mass shooters.
Yeah, it was all in one go.
So there's a little bit of, gray area when it comes to the actual title that is given to these criminals. But he himself is very unique in the sense that it's not so much the crimes that were the interesting part of this guy's life. It's the weirdness that led to them.
Yeah, it surrounds it. He had a murder count of a measly 2.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, 2 that could be proven, but he remains to live on in true crime history as one of the worst of the worst.
Yeah, which is funny because, I mean, it's hard to downplay somebody murdering somebody, but it's hard to say that he's the worst of the worst. It really just is. It's like, how can you expect that to be said when he is bad, don't get me wrong.
He's not good. What he did shouldn't have been done, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, so why don't we...
Navi, you gotta chill out.
Dude,
all right?
Ed Gein is...
We have your bed. We have your ball. We have that chili pepper you like.
He's long dead, buddy. You don't need to freak out. It's okay.
It's okay. There is a story in here that might upset you, but that's way later.
Yeah,
okay?
It's not even going to be an issue for you, dude. I can almost promise you. Like, we're going to get through it together. That's what we're here for.
He's spazzing out.
So why don't we travel a little bit? Everybody hop into your mind vehicles, and let's go up to the great old state of Wisconsin, shall we?
Ooh, yeah, Wisconsin, known for their serial killers and cheese.
Ooh, God, are they good at both of those things?
Oh, they are. So Edward Theodore Gein was born August 27th of 1906. Old as shit. He's older than I thought he would be.
Yeah, no, that's old.
In La Crosse County, Wisconsin, to George Philip and Augusta Wilhelmine Gein as their second child after Ed's older brother Henry, 5 years his senior.
I love that term, 5 years his senior. Why can't we
always
just
weird.
say he's X amount of years older? And the reason I said X is because I'm not even sure what that means.
He's older, man. He's just an older guy.
He's 5 years his senior, 12 years his junior.
Yeah, I was trying to dress up the language a little bit.
And 18 years his first grade.
Oh, God. So this specific area of Wisconsin was, and is still known to this day, as sand country to most Wisconsinites due to its infertile and flat landscape.
Isn't that depressing?
Very bad, it sounds.
You're already in the Midwest, and the Midwest is not known for its abundance of, land and lush and wonderful things to look at.
Yeah.
And then here you go into sand country, okay?
It's bad. Gein and his family, they resided specifically in Plainfield for most of Ed's life, Wisconsin. And in a small town of roughly 800 people, consisting mainly of destitute farming families.
Yeah, that's still very small.
800
scale.
people, yeah.
We've been to town. I'm sure everybody that's listening to this has been to a town similar to this, where it's just...
It's like, who lives here?
Yeah, it's an old just farming community, and the people that live there are probably generational.
It's like you either make your own food or you survive on gas station, like, candy aisle.
Yeah, it's like McDonald's just got to you guys in, 2019, maybe, and that's still, 3 towns over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's still quite a trek.
But for some reason, I don't know if this is just, a Midwest thing, but I've been to a lot of places. I mean, we've talked about this before in Wisconsin and things. I've probably been to Wisconsin and seen more of Wisconsin than any other state, including Indiana, where I live. So, Wisconsin, there's something about subways up there. You guys love Subway. Every place I go, there's a population. It's so small that they don't even count it. And there's a Subway there.
Do you think they have wider cheese options? Have you ever investigated that? Like cheese curds on a sando? That'd be cool.
As far as the one, I've only stopped at one I'm trying to think. Oh, it was in Wausaukie, Wisconsin, and it was just a regular old Subway. It was good. It was a Subway. It was fine.
Subway, nice.
I will admit this. As far as sub sandwiches go. As international chain wise, I'd say maybe I'm just biased because that's what I ate as a kid, but I'd probably take a Subway over Jimmy John's.
What?
I probably would.
Are you shitting me, dude? Jimmy John's is so much better.
I can't deny that. That's the thing. I can't deny it, but there's something about a Subway. It's nostalgic for me.
Is it the customization? Is it that aspect?
I think it is, and it's just the strangeness of what you could do. It's like, let me put some olives on my bacon and steak sandwich with mayo. It's like, who would fucking make this? This isn't a sandwich anywhere else
It's
because
like,
nobody
just
wants
charge me for quadruple olives. It's just an olive sandwich.
it. Just give me some olives and bread. But I will say, Wisconsin, there's something about at least some of these like small farming towns. They're made for people to be weird in. Like, they really are.
It's very true. Weird or sad. Like I said, it's just full of mostly destitute farming families. George, who was Ed's father, he was no exception to this description, and he had the additional tragedy of his entire family dying in a flood when he was 3 years old.
Ooh.
So that's where Ed's dad started out.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the family lineage. It's already in a bad spot.
Yeah. Not surprisingly, George became an angry and self-pitying drunk, sometimes seemingly refusing to speak for days at a time.
Oh, those are
Very sad.
Not
Very
good
sad
qualities.
man. Yeah.
the Sandman, the sad Sandman. You see, because he's
In
listening-
sand country.
Yeah,
I get
exactly,
it. I
yeah.
do get it. It all makes sense.
There we go.
Yeah. George could never seem to hold a job down, dabbling in everything from carpentry to animal hide tanning to insurance sales to even being a grocery store owner. He tried it all right? But George later, he sold the business as the grocery store, I mean, as a move to move into a 155-acre farm where Ed would spend most of his entire life.
That, just to put that into like terms, I guess, for people that are unfamiliar with acreage, it's the equivalent of saying that's an ass load of property. You could pretty much do anything you wanted on 150 acres. You could have a concert and a football game, like a full-on
At
real
the same
football
time.
game, and a full-fledged concert occurring at the same exact time, and they wouldn't really need to be overlapping. Like, they wouldn't run into each
Yeah.
other, you know?
Just to give an idea, you could probably stand at one end of the property, scream as loud as you can, and people on the other side would not be able to hear you.
No, they probably wouldn't even know where you are. So it's a huge piece of land. But up there, and I mean, you got to think the products of the time. That was pretty customary to have like farmland that size, you know.
Yeah. You're going to need a lot of it, especially considering most of it's sand.
Yeah, there's probably maybe 12 usable acres on that.
Maybe if you're lucky. So yeah, that was George. That was Ed's father. So that's terrible. Ed's mother, Augusta, however, she was a large woman with a large personality that was heavily based in conviction, evangelicalism, and pig-headedness.
Pig-headed?
Pig-headedness is kind of like just being like, stubborn as a mule, like, one of those.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm always so right. I'm a pighead is what they call
You're a
me.
pighead. You're a pighead.
Pig-headed
That's
asshole.
a new term. I'm not.
You didn't hear?
familiar
You
with
never
that.
heard that? Damn.
No.
All right. Well, cool. We're all learning stuff. So rarely would a day go by where Augusta didn't tell a perfect stranger how they were a harlot or just a plain sinner for living their daily lives in a way she saw unfit for grace and salvation. So she was one of those.
Yeah, one of those.
One of
folks.
those, like, I'll spread it around even if you don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
So nominally she was, and so the family was, Lutheran. Just to give you a better idea what type of religious person Augusta was, if it wasn't clear already, Ed is quoted in saying that his mother told him, "If we were meant to have sex, the Lord would have made it enjoyable." How do you feel about that?
Yeah,
Sounds like she needs
I gotta
something.
I gotta process this for a minute because what she's saying is right, but she's saying it in the what she's never had good sex is what I'm getting out of this.
No, and that's entirely her fault, it sounds like.
And the saddest part is that even bad sex, when they say like they always say they're like, oh, sex is like pizza. It shouldn't be a negative experience. Even if it's not good, it shouldn't be like miserable, you know?
Yeah, very much so, very much so.
If it's miserable, something is not happening correctly in any way.
I guess, backwards sort of way, the Lord is kind of making it not enjoyable to her.
Yeah,
I guess she's not wrong.
I
mean,
that really threw me for a loop because that is such a I've heard people say things very similar to that, but in the other way, it's like, why would God make sex a sin if it's so enjoyable, you know?
Yeah.
But she used that the other way. She's like, sex is awful. It just hurts, and I pray for it to be over. It's like, lady,
God damn, that sucks.
lady, something is not connecting. Some of the wires are mismatched, and it's not working.
Yeah. Misfiring synapses, perhaps.
That just
All right, so here's another good example of her, just in a nutshell. Is the fact that she instilled in her two sons that every woman on earth, aside from herself, of course, was an instrument of the devil and were present to corrupt men. That's the only reason women exist, is what Augusta thinks.
That reminds me of did you guys ever see Waterboy?
Yeah.
Kathy Bates, everything's the devil. That is the devil. That is just what I imagine. It's like, Mom, how did you get so lucky to not be an instrument of the devil? It's like, I was born an instrument, but I've learned to not be. It's like, okay.
It's like, all right. Unlearning an instrument. Never heard that one before.
You're not making a lot of sense here, Ms. Gein, but I'm not going to question.
God damn. Well, apparently George and Augusta got together due to George being tall and broad-chested.
That's a good... Maybe that's why the sex wasn't enjoyable. There's no actual attraction. She just saw it as
he's tall, he's strong, he can work on a farm, but he is insanely drunk and sad all the time. So where do you it's a give take.
Yeah, it's like this is not good for anybody involved.
Yeah, apparently Augusta saw these as attractive attributes. However, if their marriage could be whittled down to one exemplifying and reoccurring situation, it'd be George coming home drunk, Augusta hurling insults and criticisms at him, George flailing his arms, not necessarily punching or anything, he just flailing his arms at her.
That's just what I pictured.
Hands never forming into fists.
These guys just going ape shit.
And the two scuffling to the ground, and Augusta fervently praying for his death.
Wow.
She would just get down on her knees and pray for the death of George.
Please murder my husband. It's like, I've heard that as a joke, but never as not sarcasm.
It's like, wow, it was a reoccurring thing. That happened a lot. You getting a drink, Nabi?
Yeah, I don't know if it's picking it up, but this guy is slopping down the fluids.
This guy is thirsty as shit.
It's great. It's really inspiring me to continue on. Because he is just, it's just very it's uplifting.
About 60% of that's on the floor now.
Well, yeah, that's
all right.
That's just
that's
what
all
he
right,
does.
Navi. All right. Well, so yeah, that's so those were Ed's parents. Okay, and as awful and spiteful and infuriating as his mother sounds, Ed worshipped her till the day she died, and he died.
And that's kind of the case in a lot of these situations, true crime or not. People that are raised in households like that, especially that controlling environment, you almost can never break out of that. You're in that mindset forever.
No, it's true. He would become emotional to the point of tears whenever she was brought up. It was insane. He worshipped her.
Do not get me wrong. I love my mother very much.
No, my mom's great.
But I can honestly say this. If people are talking about my mother in any way, they're just like, hey, how's Fran doing? It's like, I'm not going to start crying. I'll be like, she's doing fine.
She
so
is
good.
the light. My God.
Oh, God, she's so wonderful. It's like,
dude, chill out. Drink some water.
No, and if you do listen to this, Mom, I'm not saying I don't care about you. I'm just saying,
hi, Fran.
If somebody mentions your name, we're talking about you, I won't be crying unless they're like, yeah, I'm going to kill that woman. Then I'd be like, hold on.
Yeah.
I might cry a little bit.
No, yeah, don't do that. Is what I say. Don't kill Fran.
But this is Ed Gein's issues here, okay? Ed Gein, he's a mama's boy to the most extreme sense.
Shut up.
Just like the puppy over here. He's a big mama's boy. That's just how life is, though.
He's mostly riled up because his mom isn't here, but also probably because we were playing all those dog noises on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think we whipped him up a little bit.
We were showing him a good old time. It was fun, though. He enjoyed it, I think.
Yeah, go investigate the window. All right. So he worshipped his mother, right? This was all despite his earliest memory of life being having fallen down a flight of stairs as a toddler, only to be violently picked up by the arm by his mother and screamed at for an abhorrent amount of time.
How dare you make a mistake
You
in this
lost your
world.
balance? Son!
You fool.
You fucking... Oh,
You
God.
tomfool.
I hate you. Anyway, another story of Ed's childhood was really... it really gives the idea of what kind of relationship Ed and his mother had. So when Ed was 7 years old, his mother gave him money to go to the end of the block to buy some bread. Pretty simple task, right? But he is 7, so I can see how that would... I didn't go anywhere when I was 7 when I was alone.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be trusted with cash to be like, go pick this up for me.
Yeah. So Ed was 7 years old. His mother gave him money. He needed to get some bread. Somewhere along the way, somehow Ed lost the money. He's like,
bad.
the money's gone, Mom. So
This is bad.
he went back and he returned to the house empty-handed. And his mother, as if this was the absolute worst possible thing anyone had ever done to her, said to Ed's 7-year-old fucking face, "You dreadful child, only a mother could love you."
Oh.
But Ed loved his mother unconditionally. She did no wrong and could do no wrong in his eyes.
Yeah, I see. This is already. He's 7, okay, and there are all the telltale signs of issues to come down the road. We haven't gotten into things, the stereotypical animal mutilation, bedwetting, but we've certainly got the controlling housing environment under control.
Yeah, very much. That is solid in place here.
That, as a matter of fact, it might be so strong that it outweighs everything else that you might look at to see. Like, it might be that intense.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. It's important to note that the grocery store that I mentioned earlier that George Gein owned, right? It was ran by Augusta because George was kind of a sad and despicable person.
Yeah, he just wasn't a great guy. He was sad, he was angry, he was flailing.
Yeah. Augusta was holding it down.
You know, like those inflatable snowmen that come around during Christmas? He was a sad version of that.
Oh, so just half inflated, just kind of going with the breeze.
You're
like,
just
it's
sitting
so
in the yard,
cold.
just like slumped, just like, is it over yet? When is it over?
When it's spring, I need spring.
I want it to go away.
So, he was owned by George. Augusta was holding it down. So during the time that the family had the business, there was like this shack out in the back of the store that had been labeled as off limits to the two young boys, Henry and Ed.
Bad sign.
Right? Bad sign. It's off limits. What's that Simpsons line? It's like, what is your curiosity with the forbidden closet of mystery?
Yeah,
one of those.
Why are you so obsessed with it?
How could you just leave it alone?
I mean, that's the thing. Again, I'm not a parent, but I think it's pretty safe to assume that if you tell a child that they're not allowed to do something,
First thing they want to do.
yeah,
It's the first thing.
and that goes even further. I would extend that into anybody. If you were to tell any human being on this planet, hey, I know you're curious as to what's going on over there, but just don't ever mention it again and don't worry about it, and I'm not going to tell you. It's going to make them so interested to the point that they have to find out.
Oh, yeah, we're naturally defiant, us humans.
Yeah, that's just what it is. So this is already shaping up to be an interesting scenario. Now we have this magical room that they can't go in.
Yeah, just a little shack. Naturally, of course, like we said, sparked curiosity in the boys' minds.
And yeah, exactly. And you think children, their imaginations are much more vivid than, I would say, your average adult. So when you tell them that there's a secret room that they're not allowed in,
they're reeling about it.
God knows what the hell they think is actually going on in there. Because it's probably something insane.
And this story is no exception.
No.
So this is a seemingly pivotal memory in Ed's mind for this time period, right, in his life. Mm-hmm. It was an investigation of the shed one day, where he witnessed through the crack of the shack door. It was kind of cracked open. He was looking through. He's peering, right? Both of his parents were standing on opposite sides of a dead hog, hanging by a hook on a chain, and they were in full body length aprons, and they were covered in blood. Okay.
Oh.
So
Okay.
Ed witnessed his mother slice the animal from neck to crotch and watch the innards and slime fall out into a bucket placed underneath. So Ed's mother, who had her back to Ed, had turned around because apparently Ed made a noise of some sort. Turned around 180 degrees only to see his prying eye through the door left ajar. And that's the end of the memory. All right, so it's just slaughtered hog. Mom saw, and then it's gone.
And if we know anything nowadays, if we can apply any knowledge that we have in 2021, we can probably surmise. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and say this is what happened, but there's a fair chance that this is what happened. If that's where the memory ends, and he does know for a fact that his mom witnessed him seeing this, there's a chance that something extremely traumatic occurred after that.
More than likely, yeah, I'd say.
Think what happened to him when he fell down the stairs. That's the craziest one so far.
Damn near ripped his fucking shoulder out of its socket.
Yeah, and then he lost $7, and oh my god, that was not good.
Dude, that's even more money than bread probably costs.
Oh yeah,
He was 7 years old. He just got money for bread. It was probably a fucking dime.
Yeah, I had the number.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I understand.
So this, especially knowing what we know about his mother, even up until this point, it's fair to assume that him peeping into the forbidden closet or tool shed, not a good thing to be
going
involved
against
in.
the parents' wishes, that is not looked on favorably for religious people. So that was something that happened. But then they sold the fucking place. They sold the grocery store. So after this, the whole family moved to Plainfield, Wisconsin, largely due to the aspect of isolation it provided. Augusta felt that La Crosse was full of harlots and whores and was no longer a sensible place to live, and so she made the decision that the family would take up farming in Plainfield.
Of course, she feels that way. I mean, we know who she is and what she's all about, so that makes sense based on what we know.
No, it's true. So all this occurred in 1913. Okay?
Okay.
So it was around there. Upon moving here, it was very apparent that Ed was not particularly good with people. Okay?
Oh, really?
He attempted to socialize as much as he could, yet he would often laugh at very inappropriate times, and he always had a slight grin on his face, which was very off-putting to people.
That's kind of funny. He's already like socially awkward and weird, but now he can't control his grin.
He's just laughing and smirking at everything. Oh yeah!
I imagine he was like
probably just like a very elf-like giggle is what I'm thinking.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, right. He's like a mischievous elf. So on top of this, he would never look at any one thing for more than a moment. His eyes were like constantly shifting around as he spoke. One eye actually like drooped slightly, and that was a big thing. Apparently, he got made fun of that, and whenever someone like made fun of him for it, he would cry about it for literally days.
Yeah, that sounds
like
about
he
right.
would blubber about it. Insane. So his unique behavior was not limited to outside of the home either. Okay, so he would apparently act in a very effeminate manner most of the time. He would cry loudly and for a long time, like I said, if posed with any sort of opposition. Ed's father fucking hated him. Okay, mainly for the effeminate thing. He hated these traits in his young son and thought of him as a mama's boy, which he was totally hitting the nail on the head with that.
He was, but to be fair, it's not like he had a chance to be a daddy's boy. That's weird to even say because that doesn't really you don't hear
daddy's
that.
boy.
It's usually like daddy's girl.
I've never heard that phrase.
But there's got to be people out there that are like like little boys that are much more in line with their father instead.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it just kind of that's how kids look at it. It's like I'm a guy, my dad's a guy. I'm gonna model myself after him. But in any case, Ed Gein's childhood was devoid of friends. The only people Ed was around and was socialized with were his drunken and emotionally abusive father, his domineering and fanatically religious mother, and his neglected older brother. Okay? So these were the three people that he spent pretty much his entire life with. And it didn't help that anytime Ed thought he might have made a friend at school, he would like come home and tell his mother would just dash away every single thing that could be seen as good about a child in Ed's eyes.
Yeah.
So she would just be like, no, this is what's wrong with him. He's fucking terrible. Why would you even think of interacting with this whore, this harlot? Man, I don't know the genders, but I assume she just called everyone a whore.
Yeah, what's a male harlot, you know?
Is that, there's a band named after it. It's Incubus. Or no, that's some sort of other thing.
That's like a succubus and an incubus, you know?
Gigolo, maybe?
It's like a male prostitute, a male whore, I guess.
I don't know.
They don't really give those type of, slang terms to
she seemed
the
a bit
males.
more square. I think she would probably just call them sinners. Or like men not of God or something. I don't know.
Okay. That makes sense.
So she instilled in him constantly that he was in danger, no matter where he was or what he was doing, if it was not in her immediate presence. So fear to even leave her side ever is what was instilled in him.
We are starting a cult, but she really is the type of brain we need.
We could take some notes from her, man.
She is really starting a creepy family cult that's just like... Did you guys ever see it's like a really weird thing, the King of the Hill episode where they join the cult, Luann and Peggy, and they're just about like jelly and jam. Like they're just like, no, we are a family, and we farm for jelly. And it's like that's the vibe I'm getting from this. It's just like no.
Yeah. Here's a kind of a twist. Strangely enough, Augusta, she would always tell her two sons to masturbate.
Oh, God.
She highly recommended masturbating all the time.
Why?
She saw this sin as a lesser sin than that of actually having sex with a woman at all. Very weird chick, Augusta, okay?
So wait.
She was like, boys, you gotta yank it.
So in her weird, twisted fucking skull... I'm confused as to... Okay, so she thinks that, sex is a sin. Understandably, that is a very common thing among, extremely religious folks.
Yeah. There's like, if you're not procreating, it sucks. And even then, you shouldn't enjoy it.
Exactly.
Like
so I don't understand how masturbation is less. Because if anything, it should be more of a sin based on that ideal. Because... there's literally zero chance of procreation upon masturbation.
You're right. I think there is like a line in the Bible or something. It's like, it's better that you spill your seed on the earth than in the loins of a whore or some shit. Like something along those lines. So that's probably heavily where she got it. But she like went hard on that lesson. She was like, you have to masturbate, boys.
I can't tell you how uncomfortable I would be if I... even met a single person that was like, "What? Your mom didn't, teach you and tell you to masturbate all the time?" Like, what? Like, what? No.
She'd like bring it up like all the time, like say, "Do it." Like,
no,
it's like, oh God,
I've never dealt with that in my life,
dude. You want to know probably the creepiest aspect of this?
I think we got there already.
No, okay, so. So what I've told you thus far, you may be thinking like, "Oh, what a crazy childhood, so weird, so young." So this insane mother-son relationship went far beyond youth. Okay, so it was like youth I was talking about before childhood. This blends into way later in life. Okay, both Ed and his brother Henry lived with and were thoroughly mothered by Augusta well into their 30s.
Okay,
and this is when she was like, "You got to masturbate. Everyone masturbate. We're gonna read the Bible, and you're gonna masturbate." Like,
I wonder what passage they
Jesus
read
Christ.
to get them to masturbate. Like, was there a specific one that's like, "All right, boys"?
I don't think it was the cause of it, but it was the two were always paired in the winding down of the day.
That's such a weird way to unwind. I don't know about you guys. I'd say I hit a pretty, average childhood, like for just based on like geographically where I'm at. My wind down was like we eat dinner. You can have one soda, and maybe we'll watch some TV until you go to bed. That was pretty normal to me. But maybe to you guys, your parents, maybe they were into like, we're gonna read this book and then you're all gonna jerk off and go to sleep.
If so, you should contact a therapist, probably.
Well, no, contact us first because
I don't want to deal with that.
Oh, I do.
I don't know how to deal with that.
I want to uncrack the fucking soda can that is your brain, and I want to.
You only get one. Yeah. Well. So yeah, they were both living with Augusta well into their 30s, and there was no end in sight of the situation. That is until their father George ended up drinking himself to death.
We knew it was coming
on April Fool's Day.
Oh, it was just a big
of 1940. Yeah,
it wasn't. He's not really dead. He's still around.
It was just a big goof. Yeah.
He's just like, you guys failed the test. I'm leaving forever.
So, yeah, April 1st, 1940, George Gein's heart gave out, and it was said that he died with a smile on his face at the age of 66.
I mean, you hate to speak ill of anybody like that, but if Augusta was in my life...
He sounded like a piece of shit. I mean, no one deserves Augusta, but he doesn't deserve anything.
I'd still have to say, if I was him, I'd be smiling too. I'd be like, I don't have to deal with her anymore. Goodbye.
Pretty much, man. So at this time, at the time of their father's passing, Henry was 38 years old and Ed was 34. And though they were men essentially still living the lives of children, they began doing odd jobs around the community to cover living expenses, which were not much because this farm did not have plumbing. It didn't have electricity. It was basically just bare bones. Like, we need food. We need supplies to make the food.
It was just a permanent tent. That's all it was.
Pretty much. A permanent tent made of wood. That's all it is. But so the two brothers were considered trustworthy and honest dudes in the community, and they were like, yeah, you know, they were just like, they worked hard, and they worked as handymen, just doing odd jobs. Handymen. Oh my God, that is so much more funny than I thought it would be. All right,
it clicked. We got it.
Wow. So on top of this, Ed also began, because he was doing odd jobs as a handyman along with Henry, but Ed was also babysitting for various families.
And if you know where this story's going to go later in this episode and part 2, babysitting's probably like not something we'd openly suggest he does.
No.
But, you know...
No.
Even at this time, I probably wouldn't recommend it, but I'll tell you this, it's not as weird as it will be later.
It kind of made sense at the time, because not so surprisingly, Ed could relate to children very easily, like doing magic tricks and like horsing around and all that. And he would like tell them stories, like spooky stories, because he was super getting into this thing called Adventure Magazine at the time.
Yeah, I know about
Adventure
that.
Magazine, yeah. Here, I think I have a couple of titles just to give you an idea.
It's funny because it's not something I've ever been familiar with, but even just doing research for this, I watched that. It's like a docu-series. It's on, part of it's on YouTube and it's on that Peacock TV, I think.
Okay.
They mentioned this. They talk about this magazine like more than they do actually him.
Oh yeah, and just to give like a little idea of what these books were about, these magazines, these stories. Here's some titles. All right, The Black Death, The City of Baal, The Temple of the Ten, The Grip of the Minotaur, The Adventures of Fiadit and Sirikaman, or something. Hobo Stories, Off-Trail Publications.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, right? Hobo
really
Stories,
cool,
Barehanded, actually. The Island. It was pretty much just adventure stories, a lot of the times having to deal with people that people in North America considered savages.
Yeah, I would say.
Basically like cannibals, like different tribes, just involving adventures like that.
Hobos.
Right. Hobos, like too, yeah.
They definitely saw them as savages.
Yeah. So, yeah, he was an avid reader because though he was a bit of a simpleton in the eyes of most, he excelled in school in most subjects, but none more enjoyed by him than reading.
Yeah, exactly.
He was an avid reader.
It is funny, again, like kind of fast forwarding to now, that's something that we understand today, but back then it's like the idea of not even necessarily autism, but any form of like, you know, mental development, even
like a social like inability to perform, I guess, you know, like,
it's like it's not black and white just because you have, you know, for lack of a better term, I don't know what the actual term is, but like any form of like mental retardation, it doesn't have to be like one thing. It's either you're smart or like you're just like completely like simple. There's in the middle. There's people that just struggle with certain things or like have social issues. It doesn't mean anything nowadays. It's pretty commonly accepted that people on like even the autism spectrum, they can like be beyond successful.
Yeah,
like,
look at Elon Musk. Like,
yeah, exactly. So there's a good chance that just with the knowledge of today that Ed might have, had some issues with this or some cognitive development issues. He was a bit slow,
but even back then, he was viewed as just a soft-spoken, quiet, gentle, and very good guy.
Yeah.
He was a good neighbor. He would always help if anyone asked for help on the farm or something. Like, he was just like a dude in the community.
He had the reputation of like your average Wisconsinite.
Pretty much. It's like, it's kind of like Canadian. It's just like, oh yeah, I'll help you out there.
Yeah, they're just like
and
sweet people.
They're just south of there, so it makes sense.
Yeah, they're close enough. They're getting the runoff,
Yeah.
Trickle down Canadianism.
Ooh, I like that. All right, let's get some healthcare in there. So the two brothers were working to help support their mother on the farmhouse with no electricity and plumbing, like I mentioned. The two got along most of the time, but Henry soon began longing for some overdue independence. Okay? So Henry began dating a divorced woman with 2 children.
Ooh, scandalous.
Scandalous in the eyes of Augusta. So, as things got more serious between the couple, Henry began making plans to move in with her, but was also rightfully worried about his younger brother Ed with all his over-attachment to his mother and what kind of life he might lead if left alone with her.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster right there.
So Henry seemed to have a lot more sense than Ed. So Henry somehow thought that the best course of action regarding this was to start speaking ill of Augusta in front of Ed. Okay. Sort of like to try to like coax him into agreeing and see how he reacted,
Start chipping away at it, just piece by piece,
Yeah, it starts small, grow the seed.
Start with, boy, isn't she mean, and turn into like, she's a full-fledged bitch, we should kill her and eliminate her body.
Like she's the devil. You imagine if Henry told Ed that Augusta was the devil?
At this point in time in the story, his head might actually explode.
Yeah, probably. Very much so. But so Ed's reaction every time, without fail, was shock and hurt by the statements.
He's like, you bastard, why would you do that to my mother?
So this actually perfectly leads into a probably the most debated aspect of Ed Gein's life, the possible murder of his brother Henry.
Yes, indeed.
Insane. So on May 16th of 1944, Ed and Henry were burning some marsh vegetation on the family farm, but they soon lost control of the flames. Not good. Not a good thing on the farm. Flames out of control. The way Ed tells the story, the two split up to go to either end of the blaze to try to regain control of it, right? So the fire attracted the attention of the local fire department, who put out the fire and left. Okay, it was simple as that.
Okay.
But it was almost immediately after that Ed went to the authorities and reported his brother missing. Okay, saying that he hadn't seen him since they split up at the very beginning of the whole scenario. Okay?
Okay.
However, the police returned to the farm with Ed to search for Henry. Ed, within seconds, led them to the face-down dead body of his brother. So he was like, oh, I found him. Basically, just so quick.
That is... No, it's not great.
It's not good. So Henry's body was untouched by flames, but had bruises on his neck and head. Okay, so Ed, having the reputation that he did, as a soft-spoken, non-violent, ultimately good man, the police seemingly turned a blind eye to the bruises and the quick discovery of the body, right? All weird stuff. And they chalked up Henry's death to heart failure or possible asphyxiation from smoke inhalation. Either way, never in their right minds did they ever entertain the possibility that Ed could have done this.
And that might even have to do with his reputation,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he had the reputation of just like a nice guy. He wouldn't even like hunting was obviously a big thing. Ed didn't hunt. He didn't like it. Mm-hmm. He's like, too violent, don't like it.
Well, and you got to think so on the positive side, he's just a kind, nice gentleman that, is around. So it's like, okay, you wouldn't assume that. And then the other assumption people make of him is that he's slow, which in turn you wouldn't assume that he would kill his brother with that knowledge anyway.
Meanwhile, he's just reading stories about cannibalism and crime and adventures.
Exactly.
And I think he probably fucking strangled his brother or hit him with some sort of blunt object. On his throat and head, there's bruises. They just didn't mention that in the report.
See, I have a weird thought. Okay, I think maybe here's my thing. I was thinking this last night. I'm thinking in my head that they now I'm on Ed's side in this. I think they probably got into a bit of a scuffle.
Well, yeah, he's talking shit about their mom.
So they got into a little bit of a fight going on here, right? There's something going on, and then the way I tend to perceive it, which I could be incorrect, is that maybe something did happen. Maybe it was heart failure, or maybe it's a combination of things, or possibly even it was accidental. It's like roughhousing to the point where Ed did something, and instead of helping him, it was just like, oh shit, what do I do?
That is okay, reasonable. But also, when he would babysit, he would roughhouse with the boys, and from my knowledge, he never hurt them.
Yeah, but he probably was. Well, that's a good point.
Because that's what he would do with the boys, and he'd do the magic tricks for the girls. Like that was his thing, and he'd just tell them all stories.
I mean, maybe I'm just jaded because of the times that we live in. But when I hear that a grown man would do magic tricks for little girls and roughhouse with the boys, it makes me very suspect immediately.
I feel like it's these kinds of stories that make us suspect about that.
Yeah,
because
a little
of
bit.
what he went on to do.
A little bit.
But anyway, yeah, so that's insane. No one seems to be able to agree on even including us, it seems. So isn't that crazy?
And I think it's one of those things that it's impossible to know because, let's say he did do it, right? This would be, at least to the knowledge of us researchers and just basic information that you can find in books and television and the internet. If this was the case that he killed his brother, that this would be his first murder, and it's very hard to judge that based on what is to come later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's literally almost impossible.
I get that, yeah.
So it really is a question of did he do it or didn't he do it? But then at the end of the day, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter knowing what we know now,
Yeah, I think a lot of his later exploits kind of overshadow this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
A bit, just a tad bit. All right, so let's just keep going. So this event, no matter what you think, actually occurred, left Ed and his mother to live alone together in the farmhouse.
That's a recipe for disaster.
It's a recipe for disaster, but this was Ed's dream, okay?
I've wanted this my whole life.
I have my mother all to myself. I can take care of her. It's going to be great. But there was a little hiccup in this situation not long after Henry passed. Augusta suffered from a paralyzing stroke, placing her in and out of the hospital for months, almost immediately after Henry's death.
No es bueno.
No es bueno. So, but in a way, this was even better for Ed, right? Because he could finally dedicate his entire life to caring for her in every sense of the word. Like feeding her, all this stuff.
Yeah, he could literally he could be the husband that
Ed's
he
like,
wanted
you're
to be.
the child now, Mom.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little creepy, little role reversal thing going on here.
Yes.
Still masturbating, I assume.
Oh, of course, you can't stop. No.
Do you think she was masturbating too, or was it just?
Oh, she would never deign. I don't think she probably even ever saw her vagina.
Well, yeah, that's
even from the top,
That's a good point. Honestly, she's probably too afraid to look.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be. But sadly for Ed, that was about to change. Cause even he was like, "Oh, she had a fucking stroke, paralyzed. I can take care of her even more." Again with this, all right. Some bad shit. At some point during 1945, here's a little story. Ed was going to the home of a local man with the last name Smith to buy some straw for the farm. And not believing in her son's haggling abilities, Augusta came along.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Makes
right?
sense.
Yeah, he lost that money when he was 7. Can't trust him.
He's never going to redeem himself from that ever again. That 38 cents that he used to buy a loaf of bread. How dare he ever think of losing that?
Dreadful child. So, upon arriving, Ed and Augusta witnessed Smith out on his lawn, beating a dog and yelling.
Ooh,
Okay, so that's what they rolled up to.
that's a yeah. How do you smooth that one over when you get there?
I don't know if they even attempted. But
Mr. Smith, I'll wait till you're done. I guess.
Like,
Sorry.
You almost done? So it soon became apparent that he was yelling at a woman who ran from inside of his home, crying and screaming for him to stop. Okay, so Smith continued beating the dog until it was dead, leaving the woman sobbing and wailing. So what a scene, right? This is a crazy thing, especially to witness with your mother.
Yeah, it's just like we're gonna buy some straw and watch a dog.
Like, we're gonna
get
do
murdered.
business with this guy. We're gonna like give this guy money.
Yeah, I guess you don't really have a choice. The choices are slim up there, you know. It's like, I guess we got to do it.
This is the only straw guy in town. The next straw guy is like 400 miles away. Yeah, the dog is dead. The woman's very upset. This scene greatly upset Augusta, okay? But not because she had witnessed the dog being beaten to death, but rather she was extremely upset due to the fact that Smith was unmarried. And this woman had no godly reason to be in his home.
Oh.
No godly reason.
Big news to Augusta. None of your fucking business, you stupid bitch. Just saying.
Well, she made it her business because Ed and Augusta left, and Augusta would rant and scream about Smith's harlot, is what she called her. And for a full day and night, she wouldn't stop talking about it.
I was gonna say, I feel like that's not
constantly.
Exaggeration. That
No,
might
it's
be
not
true.
That it all day and night. So this intense anger and impassioned screaming ultimately triggered her to have yet another stroke, sending her to the hospital where she would die very soon afterward on December 29th of 1945 at the age of 67.
How funny that's what killed her. Is somebody just like having sex with a woman? She didn't have to
Paying
see
no
it.
mind to the dead dog that was beaten to death right before their eyes.
Well, she'd be like a crazy misunderstanding, like she was just a door-to-door saleswoman. And he's like, why don't you come in and we'll get you a nice drink of water, you
It's
know?
like, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
And she's screaming because he spilled the spaghetti on the floor, and she's like, stop. No, you're smearing it. And he's like, shut up, bitch.
It's, God. What? They came to the door all happy, just a nice couple. Like, welcome, come buy our straw.
Yeah, you want
It would
some
be the
straw?
same reaction. So yeah. On her deathbed, Ed would read her Bible passages. And once she passed, he was inconsolable. All right, so for days he wept constantly, especially at her funeral, which was only attended by Ed and Augusta's two brothers, who were also unmarried.
Makes sense.
Yep, it kind of runs in the family there. Not for long, because they don't have wives. But Ed blubbered in tears and snot, openly and unapologetically. This basically broke him, and he had lost his entire world. He was truly alone.
I mean, that's true. You got to think, this guy may have killed his brother for just talking a little bit of smack about his mother. And now she's dead. I'm surprised he's still alive.
Pretty much, man. It's... Yeah, honestly, his mind didn't even go there. I commend him for that, I guess. So here's where we're kind of going to wrap it up for today. Upon returning home, disillusioned and devastated, Ed boarded up his mother's room so as to preserve it exactly how it was.
Okay.
That was the first thing he did. But he didn't stop there, because any room in the house that was primarily used by his mother, he boarded up. So this included the upstairs, the entire
kitchen, the bathroom.
Yeah, the entire upper level, the downstairs parlor, the living room. It was her bedroom, everything. So Gein basically lived solely in this small room that was next to the kitchen. That's where he just set up shop, and he was like, "Yeah, I can't go in any of the other rooms; it'll sully it."
But he's
my
still
mom's
in the house.
essence.
He's still in the same house.
Yeah, he kept the house. Gein, he kept the house.
I guess he's not dumb. He's like, this is worth some cash here.
Yeah, I mean, he continued with his life. He continued working odd jobs for the community, handiwork, babysitting. He worked on like a couple of road crews. He was on a crew for like crop threshing. But it was around this time that he was like truly getting really into the adventure magazines. He particularly liked the stories of Nazis and cannibals.
How about Nazi cannibals?
You know what? I'm sure there's a story for it.
There
and if
has
there
to
isn't,
be.
Fill the void. Fill the void, Grant.
I feel like there has to be at a certain degree. I mean, the Nazis are... Everybody knows what a Nazi is.
It's true. I mean, most people.
Unless
Anyway.
you are a Nazi. Then maybe you're possibly being willfully ignorant.
I mean, I would hope that they, especially over anyone, would know what a Nazi is.
No, see, that's the joke. They don't know at all.
Well, isn't the funniest joke in history? Well, yeah. So I think that is where we'll wrap up Ed Gein for today, because there's a lot more gross shit. There is a lot of gross shit. None of this was really gross yet, except the masturbating part thing.
Right.
But that's even that. It's natural, but your mom shouldn't be, like, badgering you to do it.
Yeah.
Either way.
If your parents have to remind you or tell you to masturbate, maybe you just don't want to, you know?
It's like, Mom, I'm 6. I don't have those feelings anymore.
It might be common, but it's definitely not something that you need to do, I guess. I mean...
It's not
I don't
needed.
know. Maybe that is... Maybe you need to. I don't know.
I guess maybe it helps with the harlots.
It has to.
In Augusta's mind. But, yeah, next week we're going to be getting into some really, really gross stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty gross.
And this is... I'm kind of glad that we did this one behind Gacy. I mean, obviously there was a gap of episodes, but the last true crime we did was John Wayne Gacy.
Got to mix it up.
And his kind of goes the same way, where it's this idea of you really need the background before you can get into the crime.
Yeah, the context is everything for most of these stories.
It is, and it's just like Ed Kemper. It's like, don't get me wrong, the meat and potatoes of that story is him just kind of going around killing people. But in reality,
it's like, Mom!
Yeah.
It's like a lot of mom issues.
This dude really has a lot of issues just in general. And Ed Gein, I cannot say that I'm familiar with a more intense mama's boy type of story.
No, I think he's the king of mama's boys.
I think he might very well be.
He's in the upper echelons of all mama's boys ever.
And... this information, it's really going to come in handy next week when we actually get into the crimes and some of the, I guess for lack of a better term, skinning and things like that.
Yeah.
But it makes a lot more sense. And in a weird way, I'm not saying you'll forgive the guy, but I think you might have like some empathy for him based on what you learned today.
You know, something that is like kind of hard to admit, but is it's true. I'll say that is that he's kind of charming.
Oh yeah.
Even through even knowing all the stuff that he did and everything that he went, he's kind of a charming guy. I think it's that smile. I think it's that little smirk.
It's that smile.
He's
and
just
it's
like
the attitude.
just like a tired happiness.
And it's in a weird way, in the very strangest of ways you could ever possibly have it. He's loyal, you know, like he's a all around decent guy.
Yeah.
He takes care of the people that he cares about, and he's present. He's very helpful and willing to be kind to anybody. So it's hard to not have a little bit of empathy, because looking at this, clearly, I mean, next week we'll talk about this a lot more,
We're going to get into some crazy shit.
But clearly this dude has a lot of mental health issues, and they went unresolved and honestly kind of egged on for a while there, you know?
Yeah.
So it definitely was a dirty combination of life for Mr. Gein. But we will save all the crazy, weird crime, nonsense, spookiness for the episode next Friday, which
Coming
will be
at you in the future.
in September.
Oh my God, September 1st is my birthday.
No way. I think that's what, like Wednesday or something?
Yeah, it's Wednesday.
It's coming up, dude. It's coming up.
I work all day. So that'll be fun.
Work all day.
Oh, another thing. My band put out a single today. The band is No Object, and the single is Natural End. Go check it out.
That they did. Jake sings.
I sing songs with my friend Griffin.
He's
you know
a song
him.
singer, you know? He's
Yeah.
a song singer.
I sing those things sometimes.
But yeah, so definitely check that out. Have yourselves a great, grand, wonderful type of week.
Yeah.
And
do everything that you think you should do, and don't apologize.
Yeah, unless it's something illegal, I guess, then you should maybe apologize a little bit.
Yeah. Well, if you think you should do stuff that isn't cool, just be cool, man. You know?
Ain't that the truth? But I will say this: follow us on stuff, email us, reach out to us, let us know that you're present and accounted for.
Yeah, because you can follow us on all the shit. It's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we all in the email that you mentioned, startacult@gmail.com. Any thoughts or anything you want to say? Just give us suggestions maybe. There's also a link for the Patreon below, and we are on YouTube.
We are, and I want this to be put out there. We have a couple people that emailed us that we've been in contact with back and forth.
You guys are fucking great. Love
you guys are really great people. I want you to know that I have been a bit behind, so we'll get back to those emails before Jake's birthday, which is September 1st.
We have not forgotten about you. We are just overwhelmed with life.
Ain't that the truth? So we have not forgotten you. We will be in touch with you very, very shortly. And we hope you guys have a good one, and I love you.
I love you as well. So we are starting a cult. Navi was here.
That's true. He was here.
Yeah.
He says bye.
Goodbye, says Navi. Bananas.